Alright guys, today's mod review. We're talking about the Hunted. This is a huge overhaul, making Ark significantly harder for the people that want it significantly harder. This is definitely more of a hardcore survival, and I'm really digging it. I'm actually curious about testing this one out on a more on the regular. There is a lot to go over with this mod, but we're going to go over the key highlights and show you how a couple of the things normally work. But please definitely check the Steam Workshop page of this mod so you guys can check it out. There's a long list of configurable options and many more things that we're not going to get a chance to go over with. This is another one of those huge mods that would literally take me days to figure out, but I gotta tell you, this looks pretty promising if you're looking for more of a hardcore solution for your Ark survival evolved. So let's start with the first thing first. Herbivores collectively are going to change how they operate. They're going to act more with a herd mentality. They're going to stick together, travel together for the most part. At least they're going to try to anyway. More territorial herbivores are more than likely to come after you and come after you a bit more relentlessly for even coming near them, let alone just stabbing them with something. Don't expect a stego to let you get away with walking past it. Creatures are going to be territorial, they're going to protect themselves, and they're going to protect packs. Herbivore packs are going to wander together a bit more closely, as we can commonly see. You're also going to see baby critters running around. So baby critters, this is basically what you're going to tame. Herds of these animals are going to have babies, and then they're also going to have eggs, depending on what type of gestation they have. But you're going to want to get those to tame things. Tame the babies or steal the eggs for these things. You're not going to want to try to knock out a critter. It's not going to end well for you. Eggs are definitely going to be a thing. This is where you're going to find eggs. You're going to find eggs around the parents. You got to steal the eggs to be able to get stuff. Carnivores are going to be territorial. They're going to go after things of what comes near them. Carnivores will actually have some infighting too. You'll wildly see carnivores engage in contact with each other to try to take each other out. So all in all, the behavioral changes of animals, it's going to change dynamically, and I think it's more for an improvement. You're going to see them. You're going to see the area of which they react to increased more than it usually is. You're also going to see them interact with the environment pretty much how you would expect. More passive flee herd type of critters are all going to passive flee together and stick together. More territorial creatures are going to be more territorial. They're not going to wait for you to get up right on top of them or maybe hit them if they're neutral. They're going to come after you quicker and sooner. Carnivores are going to track you for a lot longer, and they may even start some infighting. As you spawn in, you'll have that little specimen implant down below you to let you know that you kind of have a buff for a certain amount of time. Kind of like giving you a little bit of time to get your bearings straight and get used to the environment that you're probably going to get eaten alive in. It does have a timer on it. It's not going to last forever, so use it wisely. So we've talked about the difference in creatures and their behavior, which is going to be drastically different than what you're used to. You're not going to be able to get away with half the stuff we used to be able to get away with. At least, not the stuff I used to pull anyway. They're going to be more aggressive. It's going to be harder. You're not going to be able to tame creatures the way you normally tame them. You're going to have to find eggs, or you're going to have to find babies and try to tame them that way. And I showed you the little force field thing you get when you spawn in. I also want to pay attention to how you spend your level up stats. Your level stats are not going to increase the way they would the way you normally think that they would. For instance, this character is level 101. And this is literally the stats that I'm looking at. Now, I went high in fortitude just because, for sake of recording the video, it helps to have a high fortitude on here. But if you notice, my stats are not very high anywhere else at all. This is because when you level up these stats, it does not give you nearly as much. The only thing that isn't hindrance is your movement speed by leveling that up. But it's definitely going to require you spend your points a lot more wisely. You're not going to have a super high healing rate. And you're also not going to be able to heal your guy if you're completely hungry or completely thirsty. Harvesting dead bodies is going to provide you with a lot more options. You're not just going to get raw meat and other things, but you can potentially get spoiled meat. You get some of your arrows back, obviously, but you potentially get spoiled meat, some raw prime meat. Overall, you're going to notice that creatures are going to yield a lot more stuff. All in all, the creatures are just going to... They're going to provide a lot more for you. It's not just going to be the little bit that you normally get. And we can see we get prime meat and just pounds upon mounds of actual meat. And that's kind of the idea, plus the sinew that you can actually get as well. And the idea is necessarily, if you kill an animal, you're harvesting all the meat from it to be able to use some of it. And obviously the spoiled meat is going to be chucked around here on the ground. You're going to have new items, new consumables, new things to craft. This is a huge mod that, while we're talking about the mod itself, make sure it's always loaded first on the list. Harvesting corpses are going to just give you so much more resources. Gone are kind of the days of having to harvest so many things just for so much hide and meat. You're going to have to kill, I mean, the nice thing is you're going to have to kill less creatures to get those resources. The backfall is that it's going to be a giant pain in the butt to kill them. So as you can see here, taming babies of any creature, you can use kibble and just put it in your last slot and just passively feed it like you normally would. It's not a huge deal. Note that when this happens, they are level 1. They're level 1. They're all going to be this level 1, which is kind of an interesting concept. Now, this is good and bad, right? So the nice thing is level 1. Now, standardly with this mod, these creatures will still go up to level 225, which is kind of a neat concept. I like the concept of finding the baby at level 1 and going through all the levels with it. That's a pretty cool concept. The other thing that you'll have to note with that is being able to do that would mean you get to pick exactly what points go into exactly which stats for your tames. This isn't, I mean, this method kind of makes it so you can sculpt an animal with its stats exactly how you would want to. You wouldn't necessarily be hunting creatures for specific stats. You would actually be able to pretty much assign them how you want to. It definitely requires a bit more work, but the obvious ability to fully customize their stats because they start at level 1 is a pretty awesome deal. The saddle crafting is incredibly different with this too. So let me back out of this. You'll actually have a saddle crafting kit, and this will be dependent on your actual level of your character as well, depending on how high quality of a saddle you can actually make. Your implants are going to be able to dictate that. Basically, the way that it works is you don't get normal individual saddle engrams anymore. You unlock the saddle kit and the basic saddle using the saddle kit. So there you can create these different tiered saddles. So here we have simple to basic to regular, superior, exceptional, extraordinary. Kind of like the kibble recipes. It's kind of the same wording used across that. But to build the saddles, in addition to the materials that it costs to make those things, it's going to require implants of different tiers as well. So you're going to need the implants as well. So that's why I found that guy on that beach. So here's on the beach, I found an actual like corpse that I could harvest, and it gave me a Zeta implant, which would help me create a Zeta. The Zeta is like the low end. That's like the tier 1. So I'd be able to use this to create some of the basic saddles here. We have the primitive parasaur. We have the iguanodon, the Phiomia. These all count as more of a primitive species. So what this does, it's kind of it's interesting in the shape that your level is going to dictate essentially what you put a saddle on and what you don't. So as you level up, you're going to be able to get better stuff, which I kind of like. This idea that I'm not going to be able to just find a really good flyer right off the gate early on and get lucky and find that tame. It might not necessarily work out to my advantage because I'm not going to be able to make a saddle for these certain creatures, which is interesting to me. I really like this. It's definitely more of a challenge. I dig it. For the tiers 2 stuff, like again, there's going to be extra resources added into this guy, but it's basically the same thing. So we're looking at, like a Gallimimus saddle. We have the Ichthy. We have the Procoptodon, the kangaroo, and then all the way up to tier 6, which is interesting because you can now create extraordinary saddles from the bigger stuff. So you have the Brontos, the Mosasaur. This is all like your high-end tier stuff, which is it looks like most of your big stuff plus your big flyers. All that stuff's going to be in here. I like this. This is kind of, I like that I have to get to a certain level to make a certain saddle. It's almost like the skills that I'm getting along the way. This is an interesting concept to me. This is probably one of the things that stood out the most to me. And again, I'm sure there's probably things that we're missing here. I'm just kind of playing around with this mod for a little while, but man, this is an overhaul. This is a huge overhaul. I love it so far. Oh man, a fun little thing to talk about some of these berries. Some of these berries have changed as well. And notice we actually get plant fiber. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of different resources in here. So some of the berries changed a little bit. So the Amar berries, which would be your yellow guys over here, they provide you a little bit of food, but they actually provide you more hydration than they do actual food. The Azul berries will give you some food and then even more hydration than that. But more interesting enough, the Azul berries can actually increase your oxygen stat, which is kind of cool. Measure berries are kind of like a cool in between, like equal parts food and water. Your narco berries still do narcotic stuff, but they actually heal you a little bit too. Your stem berries provide you with more stamina, basically, but they do dehydrate you like they normally would. And then the tinto berries actually give you more food than they would water. So all the berries do function completely independently, and they do different things, which is an interesting concept to me as well. I mean, before, we would pretty much measure berries, narco berries, and unless you're making dyes or something specific, you pretty much kept measure berries around because they were the best berries to tame things with, and narco berries for narcotics and stem berries for stimulants, and that was pretty much it. That was pretty much the only reason. Little changes like that, those subtle changes make all the items. I like the idea of making items unique, every specific item being very unique, and this is a common pattern with this mod. Keep in mind, this also changes how your vegetables work. They'll give you different food, different stamina, different things like that. Your prime meats, all of it is going to change significantly. Something else to talk about, more critters damage stone. We got a herd of packies over here. This is so cool. Hey, you actually see like a family of them roaming around. It's not just 1 or 2 or 3. It's like 5 or 6 or 7 out here. It's really neat. I like it. I love it. Like an actual herd of what you would expect. It's cool being able to see a herd of creatures like that. So some of the dinos that would be able to damage stone, it's not going to help you as much as you used to. So the Allos, the Anklos, Brontos, Carnos, Calicos, Diplos, Dire Bears, Dodocuris, Gigantosaurus, Mammoth, Megalosaurus, Parasaur, Rex, Spino, Stego, Therizino, Titanosaur, Trike, Rhino, Udi can all damage stone structures now. It's a lot more creatures that normally could, which I kind of agree with. I think some of these creatures were so big and crazy and just violent that they should be able to damage stone. Like the Calico could throw boulders for God's sake. I don't understand why it couldn't damage stone, but that made more sense to me. Just some little let me throw these guys on the ground so you can see what I'm talking about here. They changed a little bit of the dynamic of how things look when you throw them on the ground, which is kind of cool. Like it actually is a bag of whatever berries it's supposed to be, which is pretty neat. And I think that's the fiber, the plant fiber right here. Anywho, that's the seeds rather, the actual seeds. So when you drop stuff on the ground, it's a bit easier to find it, mainly because visually it looks different, which is pretty cool. Just a little niche that I thought was pretty neat. Some of the newer resources you're going to find out here, we already talked about like the plant fibers and stuff, but you're going to get feathers from birds instead of hide now. That's usually what you would make some other things, but predominantly you're going to use them to make arrows. Quill leather is like feathered dinos will now drop that instead of hide, in addition to feathers on top of it. And basically you can use that in place of hide for certain recipes and whatnot. Venom is something venomous creatures are going to drop. You can use that to craft narcotics and stuff like that. So you're going to see more resources. You're going to see extra craftable things. But really what we're really talking about is the environment in and of itself is going to be more harsh. So we talked about that. So the dinosaurs are going to react completely different. You getting dinosaurs is going to change drastically. Your stats are not going to level up nearly as much as you think they are. There's going to be some extra oomph required to create saddles and things like that. This is more realistic, to be honest with you. I am thoroughly intrigued by how much fun a playthrough of this would be. It would be super challenging, but I really like that. I think a lot of times playing Ark, I think sometimes we forget about that we are still playing a survival game and that it should be challenging and it should be difficult. And I think this would push that challenging difficulty to the max, which I think would be incredibly interesting to play a bit of. I'm stoked about the one. This is going to be one that I personally am going to be trying and playing around with because it just appeals to me so much. This mod does work with other mods like immersive taming, for instance, to make things even more interesting for you. Like I did say, one keynote, you want to make sure that this mod is running first on your list. And again, we'll have a link to the workshop of this mod in the description of the video so you guys can check that out. There is a huge load of features and configurations within it, so I highly suggest you guys check that the Steam Workshop page out. I don't have a bad thing to say about this. If you're looking for a challenge, this is a challenge for you. I think this is what you want to use. It's going to make it a lot difficult. It's going to make it difficult, but it's also going to make it different. And I think it's making it difficult in a way that seems realistic, so it actually makes sense. It's not like just a grindy addition to the game. It's making things more difficult, but also making things make sense a bit more too. So all in all, like I said, guys, I highly suggest you guys check this one out. I hope you guys liked the review. I know I did, and I'm actually looking forward to it. If there's another mod out there that you guys want to see a review on, throw something in the comments and let me know what you guys think. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.